American V8s. Hugh Blindspot here. Why did I get my villain name? Simple. These Camaros, you can't see out the back of these things. The whole point of being able to catch Bond is looking out in front of you. If it's Bond or if it's an Apex, what does it matter what's behind you? Sure, there's a big wing out there that provides lots of downforce, and that is part of the ZL1 package. This car is rowdy. And the thing is, with 650 horsepower and 650 pound-feet of torque, you would expect it to be torquey. One thing you wouldn't expect is just how easy this car is. Being a villain shouldn't be difficult. Driving a car like this also shouldn't be difficult. You're chasing down laps. You're chasing down Bond. And the whole point is the view out front. You can very easily see where you're going in this car. You know where those front tires are. The other thing is these hips. Have you looked at the outside of this car? They're beautiful. They're aggressive. You have no question with regards to how much tire this car is truly holding behind it. American V8. Why not bump up the power, 650 horsepower and 650 pound-feet of torque via a supercharger? That's how you do it. You get all the power out that you can extract. It doesn't matter the technology, push rod or not. This engine has been around and tuned over and over again. The Camaro is Chevy throwing everything at it. There have been so many generations of Camaro. You might as well compare it to the Porsche 911. In their own way, they're just continually improving it. If we're talking about a Bond villain car, you need to have gizmos and gadgets, right? Maybe lasers, missiles, flamethrowers. I gotta do something to get that nasty bomb. Well, this car, even if you're not a villain, comes with the best stuff stock. Knife edge canards. And I'm not joking. This variation of the Camaro was not sold in Europe. Simple fact, the weapon's on the front of this car. Yes, it's got a splitter. More importantly, it's got canards. The thing about canards, yeah, they'll take your shin right out. Ask me, I may have done it once or twice already. Between the wing, the canards, the splitter, there's so much aero going on in this car because you've got all that power to keep under control. And I mentioned it earlier, there is so much rubber bringing this car to the track. It's all about grip. It doesn't matter what you're chasing. It's all about making sure you're reaching out and grabbing at the asphalt. Let's talk about turning. The front tires are massive, 305 wide. What does that mean? It means that when you turn this car in, it goes. Punch the throttle, and it may step out. But you know what? It's also controlled. This car seems to be so angry. You look at the outside of it, and it's like, oh man, I don't know if that's a little bit too rowdy for me. Maybe a little too evil. I feel like I'm almost a nice guy here. The other thing about this car, brakes. You've got to do the whole package. And people seem to forget that. When you look at a Chevy product, unless it's the Corvette, you're like, that can't do what it's supposed to do. But there are extra oil coolers, extra intercoolers, all sorts of stuff that talks about keeping temperatures down. And at the track, keeping temperatures down is key. You want to not just do a hot lap. You want to be doing hot laps all day long. Bond villains should have a level of sophistication, and so should you. So when I look at this interior, I think basic and functional. If I'm gonna flip switches and maybe put in a homing device, yeah, I see some room for it. The infotainment, it's all very simple. It's all easily laid out. You know, I can touch everything and it's in view, it makes sense. The track modes are pretty straightforward. There's a couple of them that you can use, but Nothing out of the ordinary, and you're not getting lost within it. The instrument layout is beautiful, simplistic, good old tachometer and speedometer, analog, all right? But you've also got all your gauges and standard stuff in the middle with an LCD screen, so it's just enough of the right amount of tech. The seats, they hold you in. It's almost like the femme fatale that holds Bond. Just as good. This car, it's heavy, about 3,800 pounds, so if I want to ram Bond, I mean, that's not so bad. But it holds its weight well. The steering is pretty light, the tires seem to grip really well, as I think I may have mentioned once or twice. This car does a lot of things well for a lot less money than you would expect. But then again, it is a Chevy, it is American, it's full of power and that rawness, and the idea that you know this thing's got a honkin' V8 with tons of pressure from that supercharged to just ooze all that beautiful power. What you don't expect is how well it does in the bends. It's so casual, so simple, so predictable. The fact that you're not afraid to use the edge of that power. I guess as I continue to drive this car, I have a change of heart, because all I want to do is continue chasing. The sound that comes out of that motor is just so visceral. The thing about villains these days, they're incredibly complicated. Take over this, destroy that, complicated backstory and burnt bridges. Doesn't matter, I can't see what's behind me in this car anyway. Simplicity is refreshing. This car has rev matching. I'm not using it. We're doing good old-fashioned clutch, shift, throw it in, keep going, enjoying every single moment of it. Sure, there's other transmission options if you want to go faster, but that's the case for every car these days. That Mercedes, for example, there's something about getting in and going that's just less romantic. The fact is, I don't need a complicated backstory. I don't need a complicated car. You push the button, you get in, you drive. This car is fast. Straight, cornering. It's got some weight, but it handles it well. It doesn't matter how you look at this car, it is incredibly simple, and that's the beauty of it. Big power, lumpy motor, lots of torque. We forgot how great torque is. It pulls you out of every problem and makes every little flick of your toe that much more enjoyable. I have no doubt that this car will pull fantastic lap times. I'm sure through autocross and through track times it'll be great. Might be a little bit tough on the drag strip, but overall, this car is an absolute gem. And I wouldn't want to be any other villain, at least not today. Blind spot or not, this car's awesome.
Baron von Wasteland here. My vehicle of choice is the AMG GTR. It is for that sophisticated, big bad, evil villain. So once Bond has dispatched my lieutenants and my evil hench goons, that's where you cue that evil villain soundtrack for the final act, where it's that mono-a-mono battle between me and Bond. The other thing I like about having, when you have that front mid-engine configuration, there's lots of space up forward for weaponry. Perfect for that evil villain, right? So my choices for weapons, you saw that big giant Mercedes grille at the front with the big giant emblem. That's where you can have your minigun, your GE M134 7.62 minigun. Tear apart anything in front of you. I'd also have some side missiles, some surface-to-air missiles. And you can see on where you see the edges of the car, which is the bi-turbo, perfect spot for those. This Magno paint is actually special, that will actually make sure that it's hard to see any sort of blemishes, any sort of scrapes and such. But it really looks like it's got some sort of stealth technology to it, even this very loud green. This loud green is called green hell. Now, for those of you who are, once again, track rats, will understand that green hell refers to the Nürburgring. This has a 7-minute 10 on the Nürburgring. At its time, that was the fastest rear-wheel drive GT car. The interior of the AMG GTR, it is a cockpit, essentially. You're in here, you're wrapped down the center console, which is the torque tube, which the Germans like to call for the drive shaft, a torque tube. Nice and evil, like that, fits with the theme. But it's very high with all the controls. The controls are all easily accessible, which I like specifically because the one that's most accessible is the settings for the car. So you've got your ICE, you've got your comfort, you've got your Sport Plus, and the race. This sounds exceptional. If you have the windows open, you cannot even hear yourself think in this car, and you just let it ride and you just listen to what's going on. The styling is very much based on that 300 SL, that gorgeous car. This is AMG's second fully in-house designed vehicle. The SLS was before that the one with the gulls, gull-wing doors, which is also once again very reminiscent of the 300 SL. So the engineers were essentially given a blank slate and told, design whatever you want. And this is what they came up with to also have the beauty. So when you got it, you listen, you go. It is exceptional. And then when you hit those brakes, listen to that. That was gorgeous. Because those brakes, 15.5 inches and 14.5 inches in the rear, will stop anything and blow your eyes right out of their sockets. It's got rear wheel steering. So when you chuck it into a corner, turn the wheel, you can feel that rear end coming out. It's a little unsettling when you first feel it. You don't know what's going on. You think there's something wrong, but something's loose in the rear end. The history of AMG is fascinating. 1967, started building engines. Fascinating history. And then in the 80s, we started offering extra parts. So modifications you could do to your car. Things like the engine, suspension, rims, bodywork. Then in 1990, they started having a real association with Mercedes-Benz. And it's in 99 where Mercedes-Benz bought them out completely. So each Mercedes can have an AMG package to it. Now there's the ones that are like that basically are just the cosmetics, and then you have the ones with also the technical parts. But this is the second wholly made by AMG. The AMG transmission, the technology is second to none. That I have it in automatic, and the shifting is absolutely perfect. It knows exactly the upshift and downshift, what it's doing. It's way better than I could do on this car. All the gurgles and pops. Oh, just fantastic. A symphony. So the suspension is quite fantastic by which setting you have it in. But the interesting is that rear wheel steering. You come around and you give it a little bit of guts. It really brings that rear end around, but keeps it incredibly planted and straight. So that when you put the power down, the car just moves. Really belies its weight of 3,600 pounds. Gives it a 320 horsepower per ton power to rate ratio, giving you a 3.8, 0 to 60. It's supercar territory, but not with the price. Around 120K for a base one of these, compared to what you have for GT3, or you have even an Audi A8, are way higher in price. Even the Bond vehicle, the Aston Martin, is way more than this. This is an absolute steal. So not only is it for the sophisticated, big bad villain, it's also for one who's watching his pennies because he's too busy spending all his money on his plans on how to defeat Bond. I could drive this car all day. How about you, little nefarious purpose? What do you think? Yeah, you think this is a good car too, don't you? Mr. Hugh, Blindspot?
Baron von Wasteland.
Yes. So, we've both now driven our cars and shown the best that evil villainy vehicles can offer. And I definitely say that the AMG GTR is the quintessential villain vehicle.
Bond is the vein of both of us, German or American.
This is true.
But you can't beat the aggressive American way of powering through.
True, you have the hammer compared to the scalpel that is the AMG.
But if we're talking scalpel, I literally have two. Push rod or not, we push our way towards capturing Bond.
Yes, we can agree that together we probably are much more of a sum of our parts to Bond, but that is not how we work, correct?
It's true.
True, we're all individuals. And that's why this is a spectacular vehicle that I have ever seen to go up against Bond. AMG, this is the car that they built. Purely AMG, not a Mercedes-Benz, this is an AMG vehicle. What's that, sorry? Sorry, nefarious purpose? Yes, nefarious purpose wanted to remind me about the fact that the speed that this vehicle has rivals supercars. The GT3, your McLarens.
That may be true. And nefarious as the purpose may be, the Camaro is an evolution. Camaro generation after generation is continual improvement. This is everything that Chevy can throw at it. Give it the biggest motor, the biggest tires, give it the lightest body, be it not that light as it should be maybe, but it is the pinnacle of what Chevy offers. And this package, nothing is more evil than an acronym. And ZL1, check that box.
Yes, I know it says American, you said Z, and of course in Europe we would say Z for this. AMG GTR, I've got more letters going on there, so all letters, no numbers involved as well. But this is a union of form and function. You cannot deny that the look of the AMG GTR is of a level of gorgeousness that would rival any beauty that would be in a Bond movie. The traction control that this car has the 9 layers of traction control. It is the race suspension where the sound changes to the point where Bond knows you're coming, knows you mean business. He will be defeated.
He'll be defeated, but by the Camaro. Sure, we don't have 9 levels of traction control sophistication. We've got 6. 6 and 9. Great. We've also got just as much noise through a fantastic supercharged V8. You can't deny the rawness of both vehicles. The only place to settle this is head-to-head right here, right now.
Drag race, Mr. Hugh Blindspot?
I don't want to watch that show. I love it. But what does that have to do with the cars?
No, I mean the cars. We shall drag race down the strip, head to head.
Let's do it.
Indeed.